Hello again, everybody. CJ here, your local friendly technology addict, and this is the Tech Addict's Attic. I'd like to apologize. It has been so long since I've done videos on a regular basis, but on the bright side, this one's not about fountain pens. So stick around. Alright, so I've turned my dining room lights off so that I can get a decent color cast when I use that Cree flashlight there, which is not a genuine Cree, mind you. But Chinese patent law being what it is, they're allowed to make copies of whatever they want, apparently. Anyway, so this is a sealed lead acid battery, or at least it used to be sealed, out of probably an old security system for a household alarm. You know, a battery backup for when you lose AC, it'll keep the system running. And it's been sitting in my garage for a couple of years, more like 5 or 6 years, uncharged, completely dead, and completely empty. Like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that if I thought there was anything in there. But it's been completely empty because I've looked at it and I've shaken it around and there's nothing in it. So it's not going to take a charge. Well, I read somewhere that you're supposed to, well, not supposed to, but that you can get some Epsom salts and rejuvenate what used to be a lead acid battery and turn it into a lead alkaline battery that way. Well, I tried it and it kind of worked, but it was really annoying working with the Epsom salts because what you wind up with is this kind of a mess. You're supposed to boil water, distilled water, and then add your salts to the point of saturation. And then you wind up with that pasty goop that it's just a mess to work with, and I hated that. So, you know, I rinsed the battery out and replaced that with... actually, at one point I tried baking soda. I put baking soda in it first to neutralize any remnant of acid there might have been. And then I put the Epsom salts in. And like I said, I did get a voltage out of it. It did work to some degree, but nowhere near the rated 6 volts. And after that, I tried some vinegar and distilled water and just various different things. I never got this thing over about 2.25, maybe 2.5 volts. And the 2.5 volts was very short-lived. Now, in charging this battery, I've been using my variable voltage LM317 based power supply. There's really no difference between a battery charger and a power supply. They're essentially the same thing. Some battery chargers have a few more electronics in them to make them quote-unquote smart so that they don't overcharge a battery, but here's the problem. When you have a quote-unquote smart charger, it'll detect that your battery's a piece of junk, and it will say, nope, I'm not even going to try it. Well, you got to be smarter than the tool you're working with. Unfortunately, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sitting here charging this battery, and I was watching it on my voltomilliammeter, and I had it set for milliamps, and I was watching the current, and it got, 10, 15, 20 milliamp, which when you're starting out, you want it to be slow. You want it to be a low milliamp. High voltage, low milliamp if possible, so great idea there would be a desulfator that pulses something like 50 volts at about a 3% duty cycle at about 800 to 1400 hertz. But I don't have that. So I just make do with pushing in a steady DC current. Anyway, I have a constant voltage power supply here, so I set it for 6 point whatever, and it will stay at 6 point whatever. And it, if I recall correctly, it was pushing in the tens of milliamps, and it would rise up to 100 milliamp, 200 milliamp, 250, and it would die back down to about 10 or 15 milliamp. It will gradually come back up to close to 200 milliamp and then it die again back down to 20. Come up to 200 milliamp, die again. And I don't know what that was. But I figure, okay, well, it's clearly going to keep doing that, so I'm going to turn the voltage down just a hair so that it doesn't go all the way up to 200. I'm just going to let it set for a while. I go into the other room, we're watching TV, and my wife says, "What's that smell?" I'm like, "I don't smell anything." "Oh, wait, no, oh yeah, I know that smell. That's warm electronics. I love that smell. That reminds me of when my dad would have his radios on, and when they finally, wait a minute. Why am I smelling warm electronics, ozone, and plastic?" Yeah, good idea. Go check your equipment. Well, I get in here, and that light's off. That's still on. Those two lights there, so I know I've got AC to it, but I don't have AC coming out of it. And I've also got another LED right there that was also off. And the gauges were dead, and I'm like, well, now, this is odd. I'm smelling hot electronics, but I don't have any power to anything. What could it be? Well, long story short, I first thought that I had lost a transformer, so I swapped a transformer out, and then it still didn't work, and then I realized I still had a bad fuse. Even though the fuse looked good, it wasn't until I did a continuity check on it that I noticed that it was in fact bad. Replaced the fuse and everything worked. Okay, but I'm only able to get 12 volts out of it where I used to be able to get 20 some odd volts. Not a big deal. I don't need 12 volts. I only need 6 volts. I'll worry about that later. Well, I took the transformer that I had pulled out of it, tested it, and while I'm sitting there testing it on mains voltage, after a few seconds, it arced. I'm like, okay, this transformer's fried. So I salvaged what copper I could from it and ditched the rest. So I fried my transformer. Well, in an earlier take of this video, I also wound up having that connected in amps mode and directly shorted the battery through my meter, blew my fuse on that. So I've lost my 200 milliamp, my 20 milliamp, and my 2 milliamp. I still have 20 amp DC, so I'm still good there. But let's just say it's not been a good week for me for electronics. Anyway, back to the battery. I tried charging it. I never got anywhere over 2.5 volts. So I'm giving up on that battery. But I do have this battery. Now this one is actually, I think, older than this one. It looks older. You know, it's got a less shiny finish, and, well, it's also far lighter. It's almost like it's made out of paper. But the only things I did to this were I took a bamboo skewer and physically desulfated it as good as I could, and then added distilled water. No Epsom salts, no baking soda, no vinegar, no battery acid. The only thing I added was distilled water. And a battery that would not take any charge at all. After sitting on a charge for several hours, not even a full day, because I don't trust this thing anymore. So I'm not letting that thing out of my sight right now. But you can see it's already starting to plateau. It'll probably bottom out around 6.2 volts when it's all said and done. Now, I've only got so much in the way of battery and storage space on this phone. So I'm going to hook up this little 6.3 volt light bulb. And you can see more quickly, or more easily, how quickly that voltage is going to die off of this little battery here. Now, I've disconnected it. These are the leads from up there on this light, okay? So I'm not currently charging the battery with anything. I am strictly discharging it through a single incandescent bulb, which you can see is already starting to dim. Oh, look at that. Oh, looky there. Voltage is really dropping out. In essence, I'm deep cycling this battery now, which is fine because it's not meant to be, it's not like a starting battery for an engine. Although I do have one of those in the garage too for a lawnmower. It's a little bit larger than that one there. It's 12 volts, but not much bigger. So yeah, all I did was add a little bit of distilled water. So rather than make this video insanely long, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here, upload it to YouTube so that you all nice people can watch it. And see, when I unplug it, we go back up to 4-point-something volts. And then I'm going to do another video here in a moment where I show another battery that I've got, that I got out of a UPS. I've done nothing with it yet, and I'm going to try, or I don't know, maybe I'll do that tomorrow because it's getting kind of late tonight. But I'll try to video how it does. Because my wife's aunt had a neighbor who was throwing away an APC CS350 power supply, UPS, and this was the battery out of it. Completely dead battery, $100 power supply, $30 battery. The guy just threw it out to the street. I saw it. It was in good cosmetic condition, so I'm like, okay, that's probably not been abused. I knew the batteries were only about 30 bucks, so I went ahead and picked it up and threw it in the van. Brought it home. I'm going to try to rejuvenate this battery. Sealed, maintenance-free, rechargeable battery. Yeah, I don't remember if I explained that in this video, but if not, I'll explain it in the next one. So until next video, probably sometime tomorrow when I record it, and of course, by the time you guys are watching this, you might already have access to both of them. But until tomorrow, or whenever I do the next video, have a good one.